morning, everybody. Thank you. Sorry we're late because of technical reasons. Not that I have come late, just to start on the right note. Lovely. I'm very glad quite excited when Shobit Sahil approached me months ago and told me about this boot camp, and especially the fact that the concept of public policy, which is so dear to governance, is now being spread, and more important, spread amongst the youth. And why do I think youth is so important? Why should public policy be a concern with the youth? But before that, welcome to the Nehru Memorial Museum and Library. We have a museum where Pandit Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, lived for 17 years. So his room, his books, study, etc. And lots of photographs of the freedom struggle, Dandi March, civil disobedience movement, etc. etc. We receive on the average 3,000 to 4,000 people a day. Last year was about 12.5 lakhs in the year. That's a lot of visitors we get. This building you are in is our library cum research building at the annex. We have the Center for Contemporary Studies, we have the library, and we have a manuscript and oral history section. This place, and I'm not boasting, I'm only here for 7 months, is the best place in the world to study contemporary India. Why do I say so? One, of course, we have best books, 300,000 plus. That is not important. One, we have personal papers of people, Jawaharlal Nehru, Savarkar, Shyam Prasad Mukherjee, the Indian National Congress, INTAC, Ahmedabad, the Textile Labor Association, the works, even the Muslim League for a certain period. We have the papers of everybody concerned, 400 plus personal collections. And we have possibly all newspapers and journals concerned with India, produced from India, but some from outside over the last 100 plus years. So much so that when big papers like Times of India and HT are searching for some issue of 1942, they come to us to get a copy of their newspaper. We have more than 40 million manuscripts. And we also have oral history. We have recorded people who were personally involved in freedom struggle, others who have seen history happening in their own words. So anybody in the world, California, Heidelberg, Japan, China, studying India, contemporary India, Indian political developments, etc., has to make this a stop. So which is why this is an exciting place. We have lots and lots happening. As an example, next week we've invited young researchers all over India to present their views on colonialism, economy, state, and society. Now what we did was we went on the web, we advertised, we received more than 100 abstracts. We selected about 32 of them, we selected 32 of them. And they'll be staying with us for 5 days at our cost. It's an honorarium, and presenting their papers, discussing it, being thrashed, being attacked, being criticized, defended, and also hear good scholars. Because we are moving in times of transition, all times of transition. All times of transition times, fine. Changes are happening in ways that we don't understand. When I say we, I mean particularly people in the government, people in policy making, people of my generation. People in my generation are those for whom buying a watch, HMT watch was the one watch available in India, meant a wait of 6 months. The day a son was born, and I'm being specific, son was born, the father would go and book a scooter. So that when the son got a job, okay, when the son entered college, he would preferably get a scooter. That is the India that we have seen 30, 40 years ago. So you have guys possibly have very little idea of how quickly change has happened. This is change not at glacial speed. This is really rushing through time. I mean, the printing press came to the West in the 15th century. Suddenly the cost of producing books came nothing. Earlier monks used to sit down in monasteries and transcribe, and it takes a very expensive process. Suddenly books became cheap, accessible. And yet it took the West 300 years to bring about literacy. 300 years. When the electricity came, again, steam engines, later electricity came, to become a mass good available across the world, across the Western world, took close to 100 years. The computers have taken, personal computers have taken less than 30 years, 40 years, right? From the time when I first saw a computer at IIT Kanpur in '74, It was housed in a building almost the size of our library building, and it obviously had 1/100 the computing power of this. This is 40 years ago. I mean, therefore, people like us find it extremely difficult to really understand change. We are used to shops, brick, mortar, shopkeepers, this thing. So when Amazon starts, when Snapdeal starts, when Flipkart starts, we have no idea how to deal with them from the taxation point of view, from the safety point of view, from the regulation point of view. To me, a shop is a shop. I do not understand what an aggregator is. I mean, to tell me that the Uber is the world's largest provider of taxis without owning a taxi, or Airbnb, which I use often when I travel, is the world's largest provider of rooms without ever owning a hotel room, is something our laws, our systems are not geared to accept. Because, as I said, it's very difficult to, you're brought up to think along certain lines. 2 + 2 is 4, full stop. When you hit KClO3 in the presence of MnO2, you shall always get oxygen. I mean, this is what is very Cartesian things ingrained in us. Now to find disruption of a level that is happening is not going to be easy for governments. The governments will always be criticized for blocking technologies. So many parts of the country, even today, you can't use Uber. Why can't you use Uber? Black and yellow taxis are the guys. All over USA, all the small coffee shops are objecting to Starbucks. We will not allow Starbucks in our area. They petitioned the local city council, stop Starbucks, start Starbucks. Today, when the Starbucks has grown all over US, the single shop coffee shop has actually grown much faster, because Starbucks brought in the coffee culture, which didn't exist. Similarly with Uber. I mean, why would I buy a car now if it is parked for 22 hours a day? A second car, especially. So the guys who should object to Uber are not the black and yellow taxis, but the Marutis and the Hyundais. They are the ones who are going to be really affected by Uber. Now, if they cannot understand, if the people out there whose livelihood is affected, cannot understand how technology is disrupting their lives, how do you expect salaried government servants, schooled in a certain way, used to work in a certain way, to ever understanding this? And this is where I think people like you, and I must say, I cannot express my appreciation that you have dedicated 21 days of your life and money into attending this. I think that is what we need across the country. One, as I said, is the age factor, the technology factor, which is very important. And the second is, of course, and when I saw your profiles all over the place and outside India, too long have we delegated decision-making to what is now derisively called Lutyens Delhi. Now, Lutyens Delhi does get people from all over the country fine, but after a while, we become Lutenized. We ourselves forget, where we came from. And which is why fresh blood, any ruling class which becomes self-perpetuating, what is the word when you marry inside your own community, endogamous, is doomed. So you need fresh blood all the time. You need a turnover all the time, mentally, physically, virtually, since we are in the virtual world. And which is why I feel that it's good that you're learning about public policy. You and others keep questioning it. One is, of course, is to attack. Government is bad. That is being extremely lazy. That doesn't help anybody. Or yesterday I was speaking somewhere about changing systems, and people said, see, sir, all these cheap Chinese exports are coming and people are buying cheap Chinese products. Government to do something about it. I said, no, ma'am, please. You must understand who should do what. If the government starts telling you what to buy, this Chinese umbrella is bad, don't buy it. This Chinese lock is bad, don't buy it. Then we'll be doomed much more than we ever think we are doomed. So to exactly understand what governments should be doing and what they are not doing, what they should not be doing, should not be running Air India, definitely. When Ashoka Hotel nearby was built in the late 50s, 56 onwards, there was a big international conference. I think it was the annual meeting of the World Bank and the IMF. And then Pandit Nehru was asked, and we are in the premises named after him, why are we building hotels when we need hospitals? And this is an actual story, it's not a political story. means, but that does not mean you condemn government. It means you get involved with the government. It's actually, as I said, very lazy and extremely irresponsible just to dismiss things out of hand. Engage. Nothing is untouchable other than violence. Okay, fine. Within the Constitution, engage. Get involved. But really get involved. I remember 2-3 years ago, and I'll end with that. Friends of mine in Bangalore very excited. They started this public action group in Bangalore to make it a better city, and retired IAS officers who stood for elections, business ladies, other concerned citizens, inspired probably by Samuel Paul, got heavily involved in this action committee. Elections were held, and Bangalore actually recorded India's lowest voting percentage. That to me is a sign that we really need to respect. Democracy is something to be celebrated. We are the only democracy in the world where as you go up the income ladder, the voting percentage falls. In the US, in England, in France, the rich vote, upper middle class vote, the poor don't vote. Here we have flipped it. The Indian poor vote more than the Indian rich. The small towns vote more than the bigger towns. The villages vote more. The so-called lower caste vote more because they all see the government as a very essential instrument of social mobility and of economic change. But that change in mobility will only come about if young people get fully involved in it and don't say it's none of my business, I have a good life. Of course you have a good life, but you have to sustain that good life, hands-on, get your hands dirty. Nobody has ever done well, no society has done well without getting their hands dirty. On a lighter tone, there is a Portuguese saying, so translated into English, in a soft language. It says that people who have money have either inherited it or put their hands in shit. In other words, the ancestors did. Same level society, you don't have to put your hand in shit, but we have to get involved, get our hands dirty, see the nitty-gritty. It is boring, it is repetitive, it is frustrating, but it is also extremely enriching. Thank you very much. I'm now open to questions before Kamal takes over. Anybody?
Do you think the voting being in summer and many IT employees heading to destinations like Coorg was a factor? Do you think the positioning of election dates was a factor?
The elections here happen round the year. We have elections in January, we have elections in December, except for the examination season in March, April, we have elections around the year, right? People still vote. Here we actually, for government servants at least, and formal sector, have a holiday to work. Of course, agriculturists don't have a holiday to work. We actually have a holiday, this thing. So I really don't think that will be much of an issue. I'll take off from there and say something else. Our school cycles in the villages are out of tune with the agriculture cycle. That to me is more troubling. That to me is more troubling. At the peak agriculture season, they're supposed to be in school. They're out of school when there's nothing happening in the fields. That is something we must reconcile. But elections, I don't think so. The dates, I mean, we are all voting heavily. Nowadays, everybody puts out the photograph on Facebook, right? I voted with that in Nirmal. Yes, sir.
So my question is regarding the Nehru Memorial Library. So suppose I want to access a document from the archives, let's say a copy of a newspaper. So how do I actually do that? Is there a facility for a digital archive or a request for something like that?
Well, working towards digital archives, right now we don't have the bandwidth for it at all. MTNL is our only supplier, we are a government institution. Some pits were dug, they have assured me very soon it will happen. The whole idea obviously is to make our archives digital for two very good reasons. One, you don't have to come here. Second, we want to protect our archives from physical touching, So we have to digitize it in any case. But out of our 40 million, we have till now digitized 2.5 million only. So we are trying to double the speed. It will still take a long, long time. But yes, ideally, we and everybody else have a, PayPal thing for printing up printouts. Otherwise, for accessing it, obviously it should be readily available. For the time being, you have to come here. We are not too bad. Our cafeteria is also not too bad. Nothing, I don't provoke you guys enough to tell you that, why you should be involved. Or you believe everything I said. Yes, there are lots of hands. The young lady in there, they're here in the center. And I see 5-6 hands around her also. So let's combine 2-3 questions then.
Sir, I wanted to ask that since you yourself worked in the government, how much power does an individual have to bring about a change?
Let's combine one more question. It'll allow me to think. Again, teacher, lots of people.
In terms of governance, when you talk about governance models in the country, you don't talk about the management of museums or libraries or structures like this, which help us in the knowledge, spreading of knowledge from people who are practitioners of public policy or in the space to others and all the different domains. Why don't we talk about structures like library and museum when we talk about governance models? Is it the flaw because as a society we have not moved to the stage where museums and library are places of public importance? Or is it because there has been some flaw in the way they are managed?
Yeah, please.
Last question. Can you give us a sense like this Indian bureaucracy? Is it a sort of little highly exaggerated idea we have? Because wherever you go, everyone's son is born, the first thing is this, get into the UPSC exam and become an IAS, because that's the ultimate. In fact, one of the kids I was talking to this morning who was escorting me, he's studying at IIT, but he's preparing himself for UPSC. So this is the dream of every Indian probably, that you become an IAS officer. So, and people think that the system is the best that come out. So is it the right approach, or is it the right understanding, or you think it's a bit of exaggerated idea more, I guess?
So, my question is on the similar lines. I just wanted to know how your experience as a joint secretary was. Were there any major challenges you faced, or just how was it? That's it.
That's the book I'm writing, your question. But I'll come. Let me try and combine all of them. One, of course, to me is a shame, actually a shame. And nothing against apprentice examination, I did the same thing, so I can't condemn others. But I was on a UPSC interview panel a couple of years ago, and my board interviewed about 42, 43 people, except for one. Everybody else was a resident, quote unquote, of Delhi for the last 5 years, 6 years. Mukherjee Nagar, Vijayanagar, etc. A girl from Nagarkoil, a boy from Hajipur, all of them were living in Delhi for the last 5-6 years, preparing for the UPSC examination. That to me is, I don't know, it makes me uncomfortable. It makes me distinctly uncomfortable. Yes, the civil services need good people, absolutely. But it has never been that UPSC has not drawn the best people. It has drawn a great number of good people, and you see them everywhere. But the most people that I asked, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? It was more in terms of the power. It was more in terms of the privileges, Now, I'm not saying my generation is idealist. No, we have partly failed the country, only partly. We could have done better, we have done much worse also. Partly failed. But a lot of people I know, we did have options. I topped the State Bank of India, All India State Bank. I was in the State Bank, I left it to join the IAF. It was not for lack of opportunities, could have gone into research. Is that there was the feeling that this is the one way to contribute, in your own little way. Foolishly idealistic maybe idiotic, but that feeling has somehow become very depressed, suppressed. Much greater is now the feeling of power, at a time when actually politicians have become much smarter, they know the rules better than us, the public has become much more aware, and if you read politics, read Yugandhar Yadav's 1990 onwards, Mandal onwards, the massive democratic upsurge from the bottom that has come about, which has put tremendous pressure on our systems to deliver. We are not able to deliver adequately enough, we have not changed adequately enough, but the pressure for the public or the government system is far greater than it was 40 years ago. So at a time when actually you're under much greater public pressure and much greater transparency, to be looking for power is to me a mismatch. This is where the problem comes in, Yes, we do have power, you can make changes, How do you make changes? It obviously comes from belief. It comes from knowing the rules. Like people say government procurements are bad. I said, I'm sorry. Government procurements are excellent. There's nothing wrong with them. It's how you interpret them. Now I went to a PSU and they presented me with their book. They take out a book every year, once in a few years, book of lectures or something. And the paper was really shoddy paper. I could read on both sides. This was Gas Authority, GAIL, they used to have those lectures and all. So I asked the chairman, Mr. Banerjee, I said, why is it so bad? No, sir, kya pata hai? L1 hai. L1 is the lowest quote, L1. So we have to go for the lowest quote. I said, nothing in government rules prevents you prescribing the quality of paper you want. L1 does not mean buying shoddy stuff. L1 just means once you have parameters right, you can buy the best stuff. Then of course you have price competition. But price is much later on, the quality is before that, right? So in government, if you know government rules and you're prepared to work hard and take a stand and be prepared to be thrown around, there is, but the moment, after some time, all of us have a little, we're tied down. Like Gulliver, we get tied down. Family commitments, emotions, other things. That is where the weakness comes in, and that is where it's easy to play around with bureaucrats. Having said that, I can still say I've had a great time. I quit. I quit 4 years before my retirement. I was retired on 31st of May this year. I quit in 2013. I can still say, despite the harassment, lots of it, on balance, it is possible to be positive. It is possible for you to face politician in the face. Frankly, it is possible to do that. Whether we should run our institutions better? Absolutely. Museums are because you're sitting in a museum. Go to our schools, go to our hospitals. I mean, the fact that the professional attitude towards running an institution is something our system is yet to learn. But then large systems have this terrible problem of inertia. Terrible problem of inertia, one, status quo, second. And the third is all large systems at the head, you look at generalists only. Nobody wants a technician, a technical specialist at the head. Because some of it is genuine. The fear of mistaking the woods, the trees from the woods is always there. And as Obama said to a man with a hammer in his hand, I mean, every solution is to knock it hard, So sometimes technical specialists have problems, but no, at managerial level, at running level, I think one does need a much greater level of professionalism. The civil services have to adapt. Mini specialization has to be done. I mean, I cannot be discussing one fiscal policy, I cannot be discussing that without really understanding some broader economic framework. And you not be a specialist and you don't have a PhD from Harvard or Chicago, but at least I should have some basic understanding of that. Lots of challenges, hundreds of challenges.
So you spoke about how the older generation is less susceptible to change, given that change today takes place at a faster pace than the past. So how do we tackle this issue? Because at the end of the day, we've had prime ministers who've been 70 plus. So do you think that there should be an age barricade on politicians as well?
You see, when I want a work done, I hire a professional for it. I don't do it myself. I mean, our prime minister is far ahead of, in terms of technology, he is far ahead of most people, So age is not necessarily a factor. I'm just saying, when your system has become, ossified is a bad word, you're not yet ossified, but when you become a behemoth, it is very difficult to accept change very easily. And especially when, by the time I learn one thing, already it is out of date, right? So, therefore the infusion of new blood at different levels, one directly, and two from outside, the pressure, the constant hammering away is absolutely required for people. We have changed so much. Look at the government websites now for what they were. Look at the fact that there's so much work has been done. Now even the police for passports are switching over to using tablets, But he comes to your house for verification, she does it, fills it in, it goes immediately off. Earlier it would take 6 to 8 months to get a passport, 6 months. All that has gone. So government systems, if I go to customs, and look at their ice gate, and look at the other facilities, customs on exports and imports are far ahead of businesses today. They do not accept any physical paper. Businesses prefer paper. You know why they prefer paper? Paper can be greased, right? So it can move faster than some other papers can. Other papers can be slowed down. Technology, you can't do that really, So businesses prefer that. In customs, last 2 years, 2.5 years, has done outstanding work. So within government, people are embracing technology. It's not that we are not embracing technology. Age, I said, is in the generic sense. Obviously, you're far more flexible than me. Your mind is far more plastic than my mind is, right? But that doesn't mean that everybody is the same. That's the beauty. I can go on and on, but I'll upset your schedule. I can go on for 2 hours.
The last question. Sir, you were in the UPSC panel. Sir, what do you think, why can't we take more staff? We selected the UPSC panel only 100 IAS officer. So, can we get more IAS officers or can we select more staff?
On one hand, people will tell us that the government is overstaffed already. No, it's a flexible thing. At certain stage, we were taking only 50 IAS officers. I think we said 160 or something. It's it's a federal issue. States are very important because the cadres are controlled in the states. There's a formula to how a cadre is fixed up, insider and outsider, direct recruiter and promotive business. Now, if a state says I only have 15 vacancies of IAS officers, I cannot give them 30 IAS officers, right? Where will they deploy them? But the trick is not the IAS. I think that is not the key. The higher civil services are a fraction, really a fraction of government. They are visible, right? But they are not everything of government. What is far more important is, the plumbing of the system. The water flows in the drainages. That has to work something with technology, young people, professionalism. That can make to ensure much greater accountability. What are we counting? We're not even counting. What we count in government? We count money spent. We don't count outputs. We don't count outcomes are very far away. That is far more important. Greater accountability, greater delegation, greater empowerment. Everybody in government feels disempowered. Everybody. You can abuse the government for doing nothing. Beat the highest of the government, the secretaries will tell you we feel disempowered. That is something which is upsetting. That is something we have to rectify. A few IAS officers here and there, I quit the system. The system missed me. No, it didn't. It didn't miss me at all. That is not very right. Thank you very, very much. I can go on and on. At lunchtime I can drop in. But